What's going on, guys? It's your boy Az, back here with another video. Now today we're going to be taking a look at my top 5 tips and tricks for you guys for preparing for Dark Dimension. And this will be geared towards new players as well as mid to late game players as well here. But I was getting a lot of DMs on it, messages on Discord, and I figured I'd just make a video about it rather than trying to give 50 different responses. But anyhow, this is my roster here, and we'll go over the first tip, which is the store. So when you guys are, every day we've got this reset a few times, but essentially the moment you turn level 65, and I believe at level 60 you start seeing some of the orange materials, but then once you turn 65 you will actually start running into these superior materials, which you will need to push your characters up to T13 and to T14. So just an example there, we got that superior vibranium. There's the miasma, which is really good for Hela as well. So we're going to definitely buy one of those because you never know when you'll need them for which characters. And initially at the start, actually, when I was buying these, I had no idea what I was even buying them for, so I never bought any of them. And then obviously when we got Dark Dimension 2 and 3 unlocked, then I was thinking to myself, holy smokes, I should have been buying more of these. And then they actually added more tier slots for these guys as well here. But make sure you guys are doing that from the get-go when you're either level 65 or when they start coming into your store. And personally for me, if you're low on gold, obviously make that priority, focus on the ones you can get. If you go to msf.gg, you can take a look at the characters you need, or you can just go into your character slots, and usually you can have a pretty good understanding of which characters need which ones. But again, with that in mind, with the store, you also have the war store as well, and same thing applies there. You can buy the other superior materials you need, so the Uru, which is good for the Asgardians, and the mini uniques also pop up as well here. So in this case, we've got the adaptive pathogens, and now I do believe some of these uniques now, they've unlocked Doom's chapter and the Doom War chapters, and essentially you can farm them as well if you have them unlocked and all that good stuff. So back then, when it was only available in the war store, I was definitely buying lots of them. But now that you can farm them, I have shifted my war store spending a bit, and you guys will see there that I haven't really bought much. I've been kind of hoarding these resources because we don't really know what Dark Dimension 4 is going to entail. So I've been kind of keeping that basically unused. I only use it, I think, the odd time if I really need a specific material, or if I'm running low on something and I'm trying to get a character up to tier 11, 12, 13 or 14 or something. So in this case, I mean, I see that the improved syringe there, we're kind of low on that, and yeah, that's kind of where I would go into that. But yeah, before I forget, make sure you guys go into your advanced settings and make sure you guys are turning that item count in the store on. So that way it helps kind of give you guys a better sense of what you have in the inventory. There's still not really a great way to keep track of your items. So having that extra number there does help. And then you're not clicking it back and forth and trying to see what the numbers are and if you need it. But yeah, so essentially save your gold for the 72,000 uniques. Do it early on. It's going to save you a ton of stress later on. Mid to late game players, I think those guys, you guys are probably being more conservative on what you buy, but I am actually just still buying everything. Every time I see it in the store, I buy it now, because we don't know what characters are coming up and what characters they've been releasing. But essentially, I mean, they've been pumping out characters left and right, and you don't really know what uniques you're going to need. So best advice is just to buy whatever comes up. 72,000 gold is a pretty small resource, especially now that we've got these extra, we've got the extra challenges. They've increased the gold tier challenges and the gold rush, and they've added a ton of ways for us to get extra gold. So it's definitely not an issue now. But anyhow, that's the first tip for you guys. Just managing the store and your gold supply there, and just making sure you're buying those uniques early on. And mid to late game players, if you guys aren't already, just make sure you're picking those up when you can. Even if you think you have 100 of whatever uniques and you're thinking, hey, you know what, I'm probably fine, I'd still, in my case, I would still pick it up unless you're really, really gold deprived. But anyhow, that's where we'll go on to the next tip here. And The next one is planning ahead. So essentially for Dark Dimension 1, it doesn't really matter what characters you use. They just have to be 6 stars. That's fine. You can go whatever you want with there. I think when I did this one, and I never really finished it because I was too lazy, but you guys can see there, I used like, I used a shield team there, and these guys were super weak, and then I just threw in like an Ant-Man, or sorry, not Ant-Man, Wasp. I guess Ant-Man is then second attack there. But I basically, it was just a mismatch of characters. You don't really need to care too much. You can basically just throw the characters in there, and there's not really a strategy to it. But if you're able to get one of those meta characters in this batch, like, you know, for example, like Minerva, or if you've got like access to pretty powerful, you know, like legendary, like Invisible Woman or Shuri, they'll definitely help as well. But at that time, I didn't really care anymore, and you only have to do it twice to get the rewards. Anyhow, for Dark Dimension 2 and Dark Dimension 3, this is where it really counts. And planning ahead, you want to make sure you know which characters you're going to bring forward. So for our filters, we've got a filter at gear tiers, so you guys can see these were the ones I've got at the highest tier. But essentially for Dark Dimension 2, you want to make sure you can have at least 5 characters that are at least tier 13. And in the past, I mean, I've used, you know, a lot of these different types of teams. They've got, you know, they got Ultron, they got Shuri, you got Nick Fury in there, and you know, there's a whole bunch of different combinations. And one thing I will comment right there is the fact that you want to make sure these characters you use can also collide and go forth into Dark Dimension 3. So Dark Dimension 3 is going to need you know, tier 14 characters, so you're going to need at least another tier higher. And again, with this one, you know, you're going to want characters that essentially, I mean, if we can, you want characters that you can push these one into the next tier, which is tier 15 for Dark Dimension 4. But having said that, we don't really know what Dark Dimension 4 is going to entail. So essentially, what you want to do right now is when you plan for Dark Dimension 2 and 3, you want to make sure you can use characters that are going to be well in both formats. So Dark Dimension 2 and 3, one I will say that is very, very good is Symbiote Spidey. And I mean, you can't really farm this guy outside of the milestone orbs, but he is really, really good in a lot of game modes, and especially in Dark Dimension because of his passive where he basically gets that drain. And now with the addition of Anti-Venom and Scream, the Symbiote team is an absolute monstrous team to have, especially in Dark Dimension 2 or 3. I mean, these guys just absolutely dominate, and they just have a ton of buffs, ton of regeneration, ton of health, and even with Ultimus 7 difficulty 5, those guys can pretty much auto the first set of nodes. I think the first 5 nodes I've gotten set at, and they just dominate. But essentially, you want to make sure you can plan and piece together characters that you can use for Dark Dimension 3 from the Dark Dimension 2 set. One of my learning mistakes is pushing characters that I wasn't completely 100% sure on, and I mean, Drax was one of them. Unfortunately, he also uses alien spores, but I had him for Dark Dimension 2. Same with Groot. I had him for Dark Dimension 2 because they were, you know, at the time they were pretty good picks. But then as you kind of move forward, now these guys have lost a lot of their, you know, their strength in the game, and the meta has definitely changed since then. But planning ahead so you're not wasting resources on Groot and Drax, you want to make sure you can just kind of drop a map and figure out what those characters you want to use. In Dark Dimension 2, you only really need 5 characters that are tier 13, and you can kind of just go with that. And honestly, if you've got Symbiote, Minerva, Hela, those are blockbuster characters that are going to really push and destroy Dark Dimension 2 like it's nothing. And especially now that we got the increased level cap and the tier 14 level, it's, you know, it's really changed Dark Dimension 2, especially the difficulty for there. So definitely for sure, Dark Dimension 2 isn't going to be too much of an issue for you guys. It's trying to figure out what characters you want to use for Dark Dimension 3. And a good idea, I mean, is you can always check what other players have used. They use, like, you know, Ebony Maw, Phoenix, Colossus, you know, a lot of great characters. And this goes back to my next point here, which is spending wisely. So much like when we were talking about Groot and we were talking about Drax there, you only have a limited amount of resources in the game. You only have a limited amount of resources in terms of materials, and you want to make sure you can use those resources as efficiently as you can. So that's where I say you want to spend them wisely. and spending it on Drax, spending it on Groot, heck, spending it on Star-Lord probably wasn't the best approach. But that's, you know, at the time I thought that was a great idea, and there wasn't the symbiotes just yet. So for you guys that are new players and then, you know, mid-game players that are just entering into Dark Dimension 2 or just finishing it and preparing for Dark Dimension 3, hopefully you guys are using characters that you've used in Dark Dimension 2, because I didn't even bother with Star-Lord or Drax for Dark Dimension 3, because I just knew these guys were not gonna be efficient, and they were not gonna be effective. So same thing there. Same thing. I got Psylocke tier 13. You know, at the time I thought she was a good character, and she was a good character, and I used her in Dark Dimension 2, and I thought she was quite good. But again, and then you kind of tweak yourself a bit and go into Dark Dimension 3, and completely different ball game. So I've criticized myself enough now about Dark Dimension 2. So let's take a look at Dark Dimension 3. Now, are there any characters that I pushed into Dark Dimension 3 that I do regret? Absolutely. Absolutely. It was definitely a learning curve for me, for sure. And again, the 5 characters you pick for how it works in Dark Dimension 3 is you need basically 15 characters versus 5, because each set of 4 nodes, the restrictions change. So the first 4 nodes, you basically can use any type of character, no restrictions. And then as you get into 5, that's where you have to stick with global, requiring global characters. 5, 6, 7, and 8 requires global. So basically you only got the pick of the litter from, you know, your global characters such as Phoenix, Colossus, quite a bit of mutants because they are quite global. And you know, you also have Ultron, and you've also got the you know, some of the Shield characters, and you do have access to Mr. Sinister as well, which is really awesome because he shines. I personally think he's going to be future-proof in this game. He absolutely just shines. But yeah, if you are ever unsure of what characters you should use, just take a look at what people are using. I mean, it's pretty awesome. A lot of these guys have come up with some pretty impressive teams, and I mean, wow. So this guy 3-personed it, and very impressive stuff. And then as you get into nodes 9 and you know, 9, 10, 11, and 12, then it switches again to cosmic. So then we go more into, like, you know, the Black Order, Black Bolt, Minerva, Ebony Maw. We've got you know, Thanos in there. So pretty awesome team as well. And I think a lot of people, they do have that Black Order team pretty beefed up there because of their arena teams. So this is also a route you can go. You can always go Black Order. These guys, I also feel like, have a very strong place in the meta and in the game, and I find it very difficult that they're ever gonna find another team until they release another team that's as good as these guys. I mean, these guys are so good in war. They pretty much can take out almost any team. Probably the only team they really struggle with is the Marauders, and if you have a high enough Black Order team, it's not really a problem. And then as you get into the last set of 4, 13 to 16, you run into the city nodes, and then with these ones, this is where the symbiotes just absolutely dominate. So now that we have Scream and Anti-Venom, I'm gonna have to just once I get them up to tier 14 as well, I'll have to mess around and take a look there and see. But yeah, I don't imagine too many people would have completed them with a tier 14 yet, just because they're pretty new. But as you guys will see there, lots of people 2-personing it, and I mean, like, lots of great characters. But do I regret anything in Dark Dimension 3? Absolutely. So again, this goes back to spending wisely. And Trooper, I pushed him up to T14 as a global character because I wanted to start getting, my teams going at Dark Dimension 3, and you need 5 characters of T14 to start. And definitely, for sure, I would say he was a lot of, you know, wasted resources, because he ends up just being one-shotted anyways. And on top of that, bringing up your characters to level 75 is never exactly a cheap thing to do, especially with a game that's run on gold and resources. I mean, he didn't require any material, like, you know, uniques, but nonetheless, still a lot of resources, especially the orange catalysts and the lots of other the alpha betas and the so many materials. And now I'm glad I got him there, but do I see myself ever pushing him to tier 15? Definitely not. Definitely not. Another one I kind of regret is Punisher. At the time, again, I thought it was a good idea. We needed another person for the city nodes, and Carnage and Symbiote, you know, they were a powerful setup, but you know, I needed some more cushion for them, and I needed some other characters on the board so that they can absorb some damage. And Punisher was a cheap, very cheap hero in terms of uniques and mini uniques. And at the time, I was like, you know what, heck, let's go for it. Do I think I'm going to bring him up to tier 15? Probably unlikely, but nonetheless, you know, something that I wish if I could go back, I would change. Ghost Rider, again, you know, he was also a great character. I brought him to tier 14 for the city nodes, and at the time, he was a really great character. So I don't think I'm too regretful on him, just because he does have another, you know, he forms really well with my supernatural team, and I feel like overall he still paid his worth, and nonetheless, he is still such a powerful character, and he absolutely dominates in you know, in my Ultimus raids as well here, just because of his bleeds, and he has you know, that great when someone dies, he just does a ton of damage, and then he gets charged, and then he can ult repeatedly. So really great characters there. But yes, I mean, there are some characters I do regret, and you make sure you're planning ahead and you know what characters you want to use, but essentially you want to make sure these characters are also future proof. So future proof characters, I'm not going to go over all of them, but for sure, I mean, Phoenix, one of the reasons why I even promoted her to 7 reds. I just don't see anywhere in this game right now where someone could still beat her. Like they did sort of have a soft counter to her with Ebony Maw, but I still use her in almost every part of this game, and she just absolutely dominates. Another future proof one, Mr. Sinister, especially if we are playing up against Doom, and the fact that he has his clone, I just can't really see him losing his progression in the game here. He just has a ton of, you know, his abilities, his fit, and his role in the Marauders team, and then just his special, right? His special and his ultimate just really piece together his character kit. And really, he's just, yeah, I just can't really see him getting replaced or anything like that. So those are 2 characters, my favorites. Ebony Maw's another one. You can probably go all the way with him, max everything, get everything on him, and he'll be fine because, you know, he just fits so well. His Envoy of Thanos, obviously the regeneration part, and then when he kills a hero controller and adding immunity and barrier, that's just, yeah, it's killer, especially in Ultimus raids. It's an absolute killer because it just beefs your team up, and you can really give some extra cushion for that team. You can also put some barrier on him with the ISO 8s as well, or some heals, and it just really solidifies his role in the game. Symbiote Spidey, another great one. I don't think we have to talk too much about him, but yeah, I'd say the role he's in right now, he's probably future-proof for a while, especially in Dark Dimension. And I mean, they pretty much made this character for Dark Dimension, and in raids. Just an absolute monster. So, anyways, that's, you know, spend wisely, pick characters that you know you're going to push to Dark Dimension 2, Dark Dimension 3, and hopefully Dark Dimension 4. And then, next point that brings us, that was a very long-winded point there with spending wisely, but hoarding your materials and everything. So your gold, your power cores. If the game mode's coming, you want to make sure you're ready. And one thing I've been doing lots of is my War Store credits and my orbs. I've been saving a ton of these because they have added changes, and I think the latest one was they actually threw in that the uniques would be guaranteed, I think on the left pillar or something. I have to check here. Yeah, so they guaranteed the uniques on the one side. Before it was not like that. I think it was just like these general materials on both sides, but now they actually guaranteed it. And you know what, we'll open up one just to show you guys what I'm talking about here. But yeah, you want to make sure you can save it. So we got some weave there, 50 of these boys, which is great. Awesome. And then we got some uniques there, which before, like I said, wasn't always guaranteed, but now I'm thinking they're thinking that there's probably going to be lots of these mini uniques that are required for tier 15. So make sure you guys are saving up your war credits and your orbs, because yeah, you're going to need them. Other things that I've been doing is I've also been saving up my orange materials as well here, and you know, I have the wonderful advantage of completing Dark Dimension 3, so I don't feel the need to be opening these right away here. But yeah, they hopefully maybe they'll add some other new uniques or whatever. But at the meantime, I mean, if you have to open these up, obviously for your progression, open them up. But in the meantime, hoard as much as you can, because a lot of the other content creators, Valley, Casino, everybody's hoarding these away right now, and just getting ready, because nobody knows what to do and or what to expect. And yeah, and you want to just make sure you have the resources ready to go. Blitz credits, I can't really hoard too much there, but I mean, really, if you want, you can obviously hoard the credits, and you can be buying, you know, these catalysts. I think these are probably the most important thing outside of, you know, characters, because by now, if you're mid to end game players, you probably have most of these guys unlocked or maxed out already. So yeah, but anyways, that goes back to hoarding. And the last thing really I'll leave you guys with is just being patient. I mean, you know, we're probably going to get new characters. We're probably going to get better characters. So being patient right now with your materials, with your resources. And this goes back to your planning. It goes back to spending wisely. But, you know, don't be in a rush to push everybody up to tier 14, tier 13. Just because you don't know what to expect, right? I mean, there's a lot of great characters. I mean, I want to push this guy to tier 13 for war just because it gives me more umph, but again, I'm trying to save my resources. So right now I've been trying to keep a lot of my characters at tier 12 Ultimus. So you get this guy once you get Dark Dimension 3 completed twice, you get the 5-star unlock. I also want to bring him up to 13, but again, same thing. I don't want to just yet because I want to see what they, you know, we don't know what limitations they're going to bring upon us on Dark Dimension 14, or sorry, for tier 15 Dark Dimension 4, but only thing right now we can do is we can just be patient. There's a lot of great characters I want to bring up to 13, but just haven't, you know, just haven't done it because we're trying to be patient. We're trying to be careful here. Last time I was, you know, in a rush to get things done, I ended up, you know, pushing up my, like, look at this. I got my medic up to tier 13. Like, I had him for tier 13 for Dark Dimension 2. Iron Fist, same thing. I had my Punisher at 13, so I also pushed Iron Fist to 13. And again, I don't see Punisher and Iron Fist ever having a pivotal role in Dark Dimension, so I don't know why I did that. But, you know, it is what it is, so learn from that. Shield Security, same thing. I had Nick Fury in Dark Dimension 2, and I figured, hey, this would be a good idea. And now with Nick Fury, I haven't even touched him since Dark Dimension 2, and really, he's become kind of obsolete now that everyone just shoves him into war. And they don't really use him much anymore other than the fact that he's with the Agent Coulson teams. But yeah, it's kind of sad. But make sure you're picking your characters. And if you guys want more suggestions or recommendations on characters, I can pop another video and go over my characters some more, or a character list. But essentially, yeah, just trying to be smart with your, you know, with your resources, checking in on the store, making sure you see what's available in the war store as well, saving your materials if you can. And trying not to hinder your progression as well in the game. Planning, spending wisely, and hoarding those resources. And again, at the end of the day, just being patient and waiting. And I mean, Emma Frost, I think because of Sinister, she also has a very future-proof role in the game as well. And on top of that, her abilities are just awesome. So yeah, she's another great one. But, you know, there's obviously certain characters that I would recommend pushing all the way. And if you know they are absolutely future-proof, like Phoenix, Sinister, Black Bolt, Emma Frost, Ebony Maw, Ultron, I mean, he's kind of in the mix right now because he's lost a bit of his you know, his umph since he doesn't have red stars. But nonetheless, he's a great one as well. And if you guys are going to bring him to tier 14 for Dark Dimension 3, just keep in mind, he is very costly in the resources department, and you can pretty much get 2 characters out of him. You can probably get Scientist Supreme and Shuri, since they're both tech, at almost the same cost of materials. But if you're an endgame player and you're looking, you know, you want, you know, it's not obviously attractive to push Scientist Supreme to tier 14 versus someone saying, hey, I got Ultron to tier 14. But yeah, if you're late game, you got a ton of resources, go for Ultron. But nonetheless, when I was starting out and I was going into Dark Dimension 3, I probably, if I had to change anything, I probably would have went with Shuri and Scientist Supreme over Ultron, versus trying to get Shield Trooper and Ultron. But yeah, those are just things that I learned, and hopefully this has helped you guys out. And end of the day here, guys, we don't really know what to expect. So I mean, if you're really unsure and you want to be very passive and also kind of on the side of caution, you can just keep your characters at tier 12 at the time, and then you can push them to 13 and 14 when the time's right. And but right now, I mean, only thing right now we can do is wait and see what Dark Dimension 4 brings and what tier 15 requires. Hopefully you guys found this useful. Hopefully you guys found this educational. Other than that, guys, I will leave you guys with that. Thank you, guys, and as always, happy gaming.